Okay guys, welcome back to the pre-training content, the how-to series. Today we're going to dive straight into talking about how to warm up effectively and make sure that you are ready to lift. Who remembers this game? If you grew up in England and in primary school you had any kind of fun at all, you will have played this game. The reason that I include this is warming up is something that we're taught from an early age. No matter what form of exercise you do, it's the one thing that physical education systems tend to get right. However, as soon as we get to a certain age, we seem to disregard the importance and think that a couple of violent sets of 10 with an empty barbell is enough to warm up. It's simple, okay? It's something that you know you should do, so let's do it. And again, this video now is just going to talk us through what a warm-up is, how to maximize its effectiveness, and how to understand where it fits into a training program. Now, this is just a sentence I tend to say to people whenever I'm going through teaching with my students or with my clients. People who haven't been injured don't care about being injured until they're injured, and then once they're injured, all they seem to care about is not getting injured. And that's obviously a really mouthy way of saying that the warm-up helps prevent the injuries, okay? And don't get yourself into a situation where, hindsight being the mother of rational thought, we get to the injury and then we obviously spend too much time trying to remedy it. So let's dive straight into the actual implementation. A warm-up follows a ramp protocol. This is something that's been recommended by a series of governing bodies right across the world. R stands for raise, A stands for activate, M for mobilize, and P for potentiate. Okay, so each refers to a system that we're looking at implementing. So what's programmed? We program the raise section. This is something simple, okay? It doesn't have to be complicated. Burpees, jumping jacks, again, all the stuff you used to in primary school, elementary school, wherever you're from. You just want to simply raise your heart rate, okay? The movement prep covers the activate and mobilize. So you'll see this within each individual session. The activation section, the mobilizations, they refer to the specific exercises you're going to do. And then the warm-up sets of the movements cover the potentiation side of things. So all potentiation refers to doing some form of activity that enhances your performance in subsequent exercises. Within the higher level application of potentiation in athletes, we would do something like a supramaximal heavy squat right before doing a jumping exercise. It switches the nervous system on, gets your body ready for the movement. But we can also do that by simply warming up the body within that particular movement itself. Remember the RPE that we've covered previously? That green zone, or the light blue zone, whatever it is that you want to look at, the lower end of the prescription scale, that is where we get the potentiation, because we can do light sets, we can do as many as we want. The fatigue won't negatively impact our performance further down the line within the session. You just do the same reps as the working sets, okay? It doesn't have to be that complicated. If you've got 5 reps of deadlift further down the line and you're prescribed to do it at 80%, then do a set at 50% for 5 reps and just work your way up the ladder, okay? The question is, how much do we need to do? If we've specifically programmed the raise, activate, and mobilize, the potentiation side of things is left down to you. This is partly because it's so individual. Some people have lots of time on their hands where they can cover 100 different sets before they actually get into the work, and some people have to be a little bit quicker. Other people have higher work capacities, so they can get, again, more work done. Other people will be gassed out if they do too much work. So we leave it up to you to give you an element of self-sufficiency and also to give a little bit of freedom. Some people might need a little bit more warm-up if they've had a longer day at work, sat behind a desk, and other people might be ready to go straight into it. Okay, so there's pros and cons to both, as is the case with most things. If you do lots of warm-up, you get more practice within the given movement. As you'll see further down the line when we go through a little bit more educational content, strength is a skill. And the more you can actually practice a particular exercise, the better you will get at it. It's the same as learning a language, learning a musical instrument, or anything similar. Another con for that is there's a chance of fatigue, okay? Obviously, even though it is really, really low intensity work, there is a tipping point. If you do 100 or 200 reps of a deadlift before you actually go into the movement, even if it was at 40%, you're going to have used up valuable energy prior to doing your working sets. More GPP, so again, some higher level programming concepts that you'll learn about further down the line. GPP refers to general physical preparedness. It's your body's ability to perform a multitude of different tasks, and this can encompass anything pretty much that is below a certain intensity exertion. The pro side of things, the last one that I tend to cover, is it's a safety net, okay? If you have done an extensive warm-up, then chances are you will have covered your bases with pretty much everything, whether it's switching yourself on mentally, whether it's making sure that the muscles have enough blood within them, whether it's making sure that the joints are mobilized or anything like that. You're more likely to have covered everything when you have done an extensive warm-up. However, the final con can be sometimes you can overthink things. So again, when you get to the stage of the program where there's a little bit more psychological and cognitive overload, when it comes to actually psyching yourself up to lift, sometimes prolonging the warm-up can cause you to overthink. This is where there's an element of individuality within the program, and you have to kind of decide yourself of how much work you want to do. Some rules and recommendations. If it doesn't feel loose, do it again. So this ties into the next point. If you feel like you need to do more, you probably do. If you're jumping in, okay, and the program says to do 80%, and again, you do a couple of sets with an empty bar, you slap on a plate and then 2 sets later you're at your 80%, you're probably rushing a little bit and you just need to back off and do a couple more sets just to get that potentiation effect. And the final rule is do not skip it. Everyone seems to find the time to be able to cram in an extra set of curls, but they can't seem to do their thoracic mobilization that will actually have a greater knock-on effect. So make sure you get it done before you start. And the final thing I want to cover is that a warm-up isn't just about reducing the risk of injury, it's about maximizing your performance, okay? It's that simple. So if you're in the situation where you're feeling like I'm trying to convince you of the importance of doing a warm-up, then the unfortunate reality is you're probably the person who needs to do the warm-up. It's about maximizing your performance, like I said, accruing volume, accruing practice, and potentiating all of the different bodily systems to make sure you're ready to exercise. Just a quick summary before you dive into the training session. A warm-up is important. It's not just about reducing the risk of injury, it's about maximizing your performance. We follow the raise, activate, mobilize, and potentiate, the RAMP protocol. We program specifically the raise, activate, and mobilize sections through the cardio, conditioning, and the movement prep, but we leave it up to you to determine the potentiation side of things. Within specific exercises, sections, and movements, we will prescribe certain warm-up sets, but anything below that 6 RPE scale or anything on the lower end of the exertion, you can accrue a decent amount of volume to make sure that the movement feels good, make sure you feel loose, and make sure your body feels ready to lift. So that's enough for today. Get ready for the session. As always, stay strong, and I'll see you on the next one.